Imagine this, you're sitting across from someone you've loved. Maybe it's the third argument this week, or maybe it's the third year of slow, aching silence. Notice the haunting repetition. The same arguments, the same wounds, the same patterns that seem to echo across years, partners, even generations. You try to break free, but the cycle persists, like some ancient melody you can't unlearn. You wonder, is this fate? Are you cursed? Or are you simply haunted by a ghost that wears your face? The first time you felt abandoned, the first time you betrayed someone's trust, the first time love felt dangerous or conditional or simply too much. Let the discomfort settle in. Let the whispers in your mind grow louder. Is your love truly free, or is it fated? Are you the author of your story, or merely an actor reading lines written long ago? Is there a way out, or is this loop endless, a mubious strip of heartbreak and hope? To break it, you must first journey into its roots, into the shadows, the forgotten memories, the archetypes that pull your strings. Are you ready to look deeper, to confront the hidden forces shaping your fate? These moments burrow deep, weaving themselves into your inner architecture, forming a hidden script that plays out every time you reach for intimacy. But to reach it, you must first enter the labyrinth. You want to be seen, but you fear being truly known. What if the way out is not to fight the loop, but to understand why it exists? What if, hidden within this endless repetition, there is a secret, something so profound, so unsettling, that it could shatter everything you think you know about love, about yourself, about what it means to be truly free? You crave connection, but you sabotage it. You long for freedom, but you cling to the familiar, even when it hurts. The words tumbling between you feel scripted, rehearsed, almost. You know their next retort before it leaves their mouth. Why, when you finally taste happiness, do you feel the urge to destroy it, or to run? Why do you attract partners who mirror your deepest fears, or who seem to bring out the very worst in you, even as you ache for something more? Are you truly choosing, or are you being chosen by forces beneath your awareness? You read books, scroll through advice columns, meditate, journal, analyze every micro-expression, but the pattern returns, unyielding. But you are failing them unconsciously, inevitably, because you're playing out a story that isn't truly yours. The loop is not just yours, it is archetypal, ancient, woven into the fabric of human experience. Jung called it the collective unconscious, a place where personal pain becomes myth, and myth becomes destiny. Perhaps you are living out not only your own wounds, but the wounds of those who came before you. The ghosts of fathers and mothers, lovers and friends, all circling the same unanswered questions. What if your type, your attractions and aversions, your hopes and betrayals, are all symptoms of a deeper, unacknowledged force that Carl Jung called the complex, a psychic knot tied long before you ever fell in love? What if the more you try to fix your relationships, the more deeply you entrench yourself in the very trap you wish to escape? What if something unseen is scripting your every move, whispering in your ear, guiding you back again and again to the very pain you fear most? You know exactly which button to push, which sigh will trigger which memory, and which memory will flood the room with resentment stretched thin over time. You want change. You promise yourself, this time, things will be different. But as the hours slip past, you realize something dreadful, something soul-curling. You are stuck in a loop. Now imagine pulling back, as if you could float above your own life, watching not just this relationship, but every one that's ever meant something to you. Here's the paradox. The harder you try to break the cycle, the tighter it seems to grip you. Now, let this question crawl beneath your skin. What if your relationships are not just failing you? Picture your childhood self, wide-eyed, innocent, absorbing the world's lessons before you could speak them. Why do you return to the same wounds, over and over, as if each new relationship is a reenactment, a ritual, a doomed experiment in hope? Take a moment. Somewhere deep inside, you sense a truth both terrifying and liberating. You are not alone in this. So now ask yourself, freely ask, what if your relationships are not stuck by accident, but by design? Let that question hang in the air, heavy and electric, because to see the loop is not enough. The answer lies beneath the surface, waiting, coiled in the depths. But to reach it, you must first enter the labyrinth. You step into the labyrinth, torch flickering, shadows stretching along ancient walls. Each footfall echoes soft, but weighted with the dread of what you might find. Is it really just a matter of bad luck? Or is something far deeper at work, something that shapes the very architecture of your being? You begin to sense that this is no ordinary maze. The walls are lined with mirrors, but the faces reflected are not all your own. The frightened child, the angry parent, the ex-lover's wounded gaze, the silent, disappointed ancestor. They beckon you closer, their eyes full of questions you've avoided for years. He would look at your tangled relationships and see the blind, insatiable force of desire, forever seeking satisfaction, forever denied. Step outside yourself and look at the world, billions of people, all locked in the same dance of hope and disappointment. The machinery of culture tells you what love should look like, how it should feel, even when it should begin and end. The stories you consume, movies, fairy tales, social scripts etch themselves into your psyche, subtly shaping your expectations and your disappointments. Social media scrolls before your eyes, a parade of curated happiness, declarations of love and betrayal, cycles of idealization and abandonment played out in real time. In this digital agora, the loop becomes viral, contagious, each heartbreak amplified by the collective hunger for connection. Each failed attempt at change becomes evidence that you are, at your core, unlovable, unfixable, destined to repeat. Is it any wonder you repeat yourself, chasing the ghost of fulfillment through the corridors of your own longing? You see, dimly, that the roots of your suffering are not only psychological, but philosophical, even spiritual. To untangle them, you must go beyond self-help platitudes and cultural cliches. This is not just about happiness or even love. This is about the meaning of your life, the structure of your reality, the possibility of freedom itself. You must descend into the underworld of your own soul, confront the shadows, make peace with ghosts. Only then can you see the full shape of the trap and begin to imagine escape. Only then, perhaps, can you hope to emerge into the light. What would it take to break free from this cycle, not just individually, but collectively? Is it possible to love without the weight of history pressing on your heart? What if it is not a prison, but a crucible, a necessary trial on the path to something greater? What if, by escaping it too soon, you lose the chance to become who you truly are? Each moment etched itself into your nervous system, a lesson written in the language of survival. Jean-Paul Sartre would whisper that you are condemned to be free, to invent yourself anew each moment. But what if you are shackled by invisible chains? What if the freedom you crave is haunted by old contracts you never consciously signed? Now, each new relationship is a test, a performance of the same old script, hoping for a different ending. Perhaps your loop is not an enemy, but a question mark, a riddle posed by existence itself. What are you meant to learn by repeating these cycles? What truth is hidden on the far side of your pain? What kind of loop is this, and why does it feel so inescapable? It's that you are living inside of a myth, a story that began before you, but that you keep retelling with different faces, hoping for a new ending. The abandoned child seeks rescue in every partner. The perfectionist attracts chaos to feel alive. The pleaser invites anger to finally say no. Each role is an archetype, a mask worn by billions throughout history, each searching for redemption in the arms of another. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What he meant was not simply that you have hidden motives, but that entire world's mythic, collective, impersonal are at play within you. The loop isn't just yours, it's the psychic inheritance of humanity, passed down like a family heirloom, older than memory. But the roots wind deeper still. Imagine the moment you first learned to love, not the storybook version, but the true, trembling initiation, the ache of longing, the fear of losing, the thrill of being seen. Nietzsche would have said you were forged in the fire of your own becoming. Become who you are. But what if you never truly saw the mold shaping your desires? What if your becoming was guided by hands unseen, by parents who were themselves lost in their own loops, by a society whispering what love should be and punishing all deviations? Think of the first time you felt unworthy, the first time you swallowed your needs, or exploded in rage, or shrank into silence to keep the peace. Schopenhauer, the philosopher of pessimism, saw life as a ceaseless striving, a will that pushes us forward but never lets us rest. But it isn't just you. Aldous Huxley warned that society itself is a factory for neurosis, conditioning us to crave what we do not need and fear what we cannot control. And beneath it all, the deeper existential question, what is the self that loves? Viktor Frankl, survivor and seeker, insisted that meaning is forged in suffering. You begin to see the outlines of the problem. It isn't just that. Your relationships are going wrong. But the deeper you look, the more you realize the loop is self-perpetuating. Each disappointment confirms your secret fears. Each argument deepens the groove in your mind. And so the question sharpens, is there such a thing as a truly new relationship? Or are we all condemned to play out the dramas of our past until the end of time? The philosopher's torch flickers, but as you peer into the depths, a new fear rises. What if the loop serves a purpose? The tension tightens. You sense that the stakes are higher than you realized. And so you stand at the threshold, haunted by the suspicion that to truly understand your stuckness, you must be willing to confront not only your own wounds, but the very foundations of what it means to be human. Only then can you see the full shape of the trap and begin to imagine escape. Now, with the torchlight of awareness flickering in your hand, you find yourself deeper in the labyrinth than you ever intended. The air thickens, the walls close in, and you begin to sense that this loop, the one you thought was merely a private torment, casts a much longer shadow than you ever dared imagine. Picture a world where every whispered insecurity, every silent grudge, every unfinished conversation is not merely a private affair, but a note in a vast, invisible network. Picture billions of people replaying ancestral wounds, caught in feedback loops that ripple outward, shaping not just the fate of a single relationship, but the very architecture of society itself. Relationships become battlegrounds, not sanctuaries. Each person, armored in childhood defenses, walks into the arena expecting attack, bracing for pain. Intimacy becomes a negotiation, a power struggle, a wary truce. The grooves carved by early pain become highways for adult thought. Each time you react in the same old way, your neural pathways deepen, like ruts in a dirt road after rain. It feels safe, familiar, almost comforting. This return to the known, even when it hurts. The unknown, by contrast, feels like death. You long for closeness, but the fear of being hurt again keeps you at arm's length. You talk, but do not speak. From your earliest days, you are taught what love should look like, what roles you must play. This is about reclaiming your freedom, your creativity, your birthright as a conscious being. It offers the comfort of certainty, the safety of repetition. To break free would require a leap into the unknown, a kind of death, a kind of resurrection, because every moment spent in the loop is a moment lost, a moment in which you could have loved freely, acted bravely, spoken truth, created something new. Men are told to be stoic, women to be nurturing, or vice versa, depending on the era and culture. But the next step is the hardest, to imagine rebellion, to risk everything for the chance at something new. Are you ready to face the unknown, to challenge the ancient logic of the loop? Each time you capitulate to the loop, you surrender a piece of your own agency, your own possibility. The world narrows, your imagination withers. What would happen if just one person broke the loop truly, irrevocably? What new possibilities might ripple outward, changing not just a single life, but the very fabric of reality itself? You begin to believe that this is all there is, that you are not capable of anything more. You forget that you are the dreamer, not just the dream, the author, not just the character. Vulnerability is risky, anger is shameful, desire is dangerous. The things you do not say, the feelings you do not express. The loop grows in the darkness of the unsaid. You avoid difficult conversations, hoping to keep the peace, but only ensuring that the wounds fester. Unhealed, shame accumulates like sediment at the bottom of a forgotten well. The cost is not just to your happiness, but to your very sense of self. These scripts are not just personal, but collective, handed down by religions, governments, media. Families step outside the script, and you risk exile. Stay within it, and you risk never truly living. You touch, but do not feel. You exist side by side, alone together. It underpins cycles of abuse, of trauma passed down through generations, of communities unable to heal because the same wounds are reopened again and again. Wars fought over ancient grievances, families divided by old betrayals, lovers doomed to reenact the suffering of their parents, and grandparents blind to the forces driving them. You drive to work, replaying every word, every look, You wonder, what's wrong with me, or perhaps what's wrong with them? But the loop doesn't care who you blame. It feeds on blame. It grows fat on projection, on the refusal to see the shadow within. The more you look for fault outside yourself, the more the loop tightens. Its grip invisible yet unbreakable. The personal is political. The psychological is historical. The individual heartbreak is a microcosm of collective pain. You wake up in the morning, heart pounding, mind swirling with last night's arguments. This is the first unseen consequence, the death of true connection, but the consequences spiral outward. As the Jungian loop shapes your inner world, it seeps like a toxin into the outer world family. Friendships, communities, nations. Cognitive biases, those invisible filters through which you interpret reality, distort every gesture, every word. You see what you expect to see, you hear what you fear to hear. Confirmation bias locks you inside your old story, dismissing any evidence that might disrupt your narrative. The mind, built to survive, is not built to see clearly. This blindness is not an accident. Neurologically, your brain is wired to seek patterns, to conserve energy by following the path of least resistance. Cultural conditioning amplifies the trap. You start to see how this Jungian loop is not merely psychological, but systemic. And yet, there is a subtler, more insidious consequence, the shrinking of the self. But the most chilling aspect is this: the loop feeds on your silence. Now you begin to feel the true urgency. This is not just about fixing your relationships or even your own psyche, but the loop is cunning. It whispers, this is just who you are. This is fate. Change is impossible. Can you feel the weight of this? The cost, not just to you, but to the world. You sense you are nearing the heart of the labyrinth, the place where choice is possible. The moment of decision is approaching. The air crackles with potential. Will you step forward? You stand trembling at the heart of the labyrinth. The walls throb with the pulse of old stories, your parents, your ancestors, all the way back to the beginning of longing itself. Here, the air is thick with the scent of endings and beginnings. The silence before a storm. You feel the weight of centuries pressing on your chest. But through the suffocating certainty of the loop, a single, rebellious thought flickers. What if I could choose differently? And dialoguing with his own archetypes until the line between sanity and madness blurred. They became lucid dreamers within their own stories, refusing to be puppets of the past. But it requires a radical shift, the courage to disappoint the past. You must risk betraying the expectations you inherited, the definitions of love and selfhood that have kept you safe but small. You must allow yourself and your relationships to be new, even if that means becoming a stranger to yourself for a time. Sartre said, freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. It may mean choosing solitude over company that feeds your old wounds. The neural ruts of fear and shame soften. The grooves of defense and withdrawal lose their hold. The loop, once a prison, becomes a teacher. You realize that every relationship, every heartbreak, every repetition was an invitation to wake up. The pain was not punishment, but a call to consciousness, to courage, to compassion. You find yourself responding, not reacting. You become curious where you were once certain. Imagine entire families, communities, even cultures, breaking the cycle not by erasing the past, but by transforming their relationship to it. Imagine a world where the collective unconscious becomes conscious, where the old myths are rewritten, not in denial, but in deep, radical acceptance. You see your partner not as a mirror of your wounds, but as a mystery, a fellow traveler in the labyrinth. It is the willingness to risk the unknown in search of something real. It is the slow, stubborn insistence that you and those you love are more than the sum of your wounds. It may mean loving yourself with the devotion you once reserved for those who could never truly see you. They asked, if the loop is unavoidable, can I at least choose how I walk it? Can I bring consciousness where there was only compulsion? Or Nietzsche, who shattered the eternal recurrence, not with optimism, but with the wild affirmation of life amor fati, the love of fate. Draw the map of your emotional lineage, who taught you to love, to fear, to hide, to become the lucid dreamer of your own life. The final door waits, its hinges rusted by centuries of pain and hope. On the other side, the ultimate truth, the revelation that will change everything. What patterns do you see? Share your discoveries, not as accusations, but as invitations. This is what I carry. What do you carry? In the light of shared vulnerability, the loop loses its power. Or Frankl, who, in the hell of Auschwitz, discovered that meaning is forged not by escaping suffering, but by embracing it with dignity. Notice the urge to defend, to attack, to retreat. Each time you reach for reassurance, offer it to yourself first. Each time the past threatens to drown the present, anchor yourself in the simple reality of this moment, the air in your lungs, the warmth of your own hand, the fact that you are here alive and still capable of newness. Instead, say the unsayable. I'm afraid. I don't know. I want something different. These words are keys, turning in the locks of ancient doors. They disrupt the script. Force both of you into the present. The loop trembles. Here, in this moment, rebellion does not look like violence or noise. It is quieter, stranger, and active radical attention. You stop. You breathe. You listen not to the voice of habit, but to the tremulous whisper of possibility. You recall Jung's warning. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. The old self wants to charge forward, to fix, to control, to force a new outcome. But the deeper rebellion is counterintuitive, to do nothing at first, but to feel everything. You allow yourself to grieve the losses, to rage at the unfairness, to mourn the years spent circling the same pain. You make space for your most forbidden feelings, knowing they are the compass out of the maze. The paradox, to break the loop, you must first see it whole. Cradle it in your awareness without flinching or turning away. This is the first act of freedom, witnessing the pattern without judgment or denial. You become the observer and the observed. You name the ghost for what it is, a complex, a trauma, an inherited myth. You stare into its eyes and say, I see you. I know your shape. I know you are not all of me. In that moment, something in the labyrinth shifts. A door you never saw before cracks open. But it's not enough to see. Vision must be matched with action. And here, the path forks in unexpected ways. History offers examples of those who dared this rebellion. Consider Jung himself, who confronted his own inner chaos in the Red Book, painting visions. Their rebellion was not against fate, but against unconsciousness. You can too. Begin with small acts of subversion. The next time you feel the old argument rising, pause, or consider the possibility of creative rebellion. Write a letter you never intend to send. Sometimes rebellion means walking away. To break the loop may require leaving behind not just people, but entire worlds, jobs, cities, belief systems. But the most profound rebellion is not external. It is the quiet, daily practice of choosing presence over projection. Each time you catch yourself expecting betrayal, pause. Over time, these acts, small, almost invisible, begin to carve new paths in your mind. And with each act of rebellion, the world itself begins to change. Imagine what would happen if more people chose this path. The rebellion is not a single act, but a way of being. It is the refusal to let the past dictate the future. Are you ready to claim this freedom? To become the lucid dreamer of your own life? The final door waits, its hinges rusted by centuries of pain and hope. On the other side, the ultimate truth, the revelation that will change everything. You stand before the final door. Behind you, the labyrinth hums with echoes of your childhood, your ancestors, your culture, your collective dreams and dreads. Just a mirror, simple and unadorned, standing in the center of an empty chamber. But as you gaze, the image wavers, your features blur and multiply. You see your mother's sadness in your own mouth, your father's anger in your clenched jaw. You see generations of longing, of reaching, of failing and hoping again. You see the archetypes, the hero, the orphan, the saboteur, the rescuer dancing through your veins. But as a seismic shift, you now see, was your teacher all along. Each repetition was a lesson, each heartbreak a call to deeper awareness. The pain was not evidence of your failure. The people you love are no longer mere actors in your private drama. They are mysteries, sovereign and strange, carrying their own loops and lessons. Freedom is always one breath, one choice, one act of seeing away. The loop is not your jailer. It is your invitation. Love with the knowledge that every ending is also a beginning. The loop is not broken by force, but by the soft, relentless power of consciousness. You meet them not as a beggar for love, but as a fellow traveler, a co-creator of meaning. Your relationships become not prisons, but crucibles, places where you and the other can become more than you were. Together, the labyrinth, the torch, and the open field. But of your capacity to awaken, the loop is ancient, and it does not vanish overnight. But now you know, every loop is also a spiral, every repetition a new chance. You do not have to become someone else. You only have to become more yourself, awake, aware, courageous enough to meet the moment as it is. Every time you return to the same wound, you are being invited not to suffer, but to see more clearly, more compassionately, more bravely. If you are the weaver, then you are also the unweaver. You can choose, but because you were being invited again and again to wake up, to become a conscious participant in your own becoming, to love not from compulsion or fear, but from presence, from courage, from the ever-renewing ground of now. Again and again, to see the pattern, to feel its ache, and yet not to be ruled by it. You can choose to love, even knowing love's risks. You can choose to speak, even with your voice trembling. You can choose to forgive, not to erase the past, but to free yourself from its compulsion. For a moment, you feel dizzy, as if you might collapse under the weight of all these lives. You approach hesitant and peer into it, not to see your face, but to see what lies behind your eyes. The walls of the chamber begin to dissolve. The labyrinth is gone. You stand in an open field beneath a sky vast enough to hold every story, every possibility. The air is alive with the scent of rain and earth and new beginnings. You realize that the path forward is not a straight line, but a spiral, a dance that circles closer and closer to the center, yet never repeats in quite the same way. In your hand, the torch burns low, but you no longer need it. Your own eyes have grown accustomed to the dark. The darkness was never your enemy. It was the soil in which your freedom could take root. It was the unexplored country where your true self waited, patient and fierce. You are both the story and the rewriter of the story. Every time you pause, every time you notice, every time you choose awareness over reaction, you untangle another thread. You become a little more free, a little more real, a little more alive. You place your palm on the cold, ancient stone, and the door opens not with a creak, but in this final chamber, as you look deeper, you see that you are not the pattern. You are the space in which the pattern unfolds. You are the witness, the conscious presence, the lucid dreamer. You notice a thin, golden thread running through every image, every face. It is the thread of awareness, the secret that no one ever taught you, but that you have always carried. You realize with a shuddering clarity that the loop was never outside you. It was always inside, woven into the very act of seeing, of naming, of believing, but with a silent, inevitable yielding, as if it had always been waiting for you. What awaits is not what you expected. No blinding revelation, no booming voice from the heavens. At first, you see yourself as you have always been, the lover, the fighter, the child, the parent, the wanderer in circles. But then something changes. The ultimate truth is not that you are trapped, but that you are the weaver of the loop. The loop persists because you mistake the pattern for reality itself, because you think your wounds, your desires, your inherited stories are the sum total of who you are. This realization lands not as a comfort. The loop, as this truth sinks in, you remember Jung's words, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Now you see why your relationships were stuck in a Jungian loop, not because you were broken or cursed or doomed. The final, most powerful realization is this: you are both the labyrinth and the one who walks it. And so, as you step out into the world, everything looks different. The urge to repeat, to fall asleep, will always return. And if you forget, if you fall asleep again, if you stumble back into the maze, remember this: awareness is always waiting. So go, step into your relationships with new eyes. Speak the truth your ancestors could not speak. You are the dreamer and the dreamed, the weaver and the thread. Now what will you create? Knowing you are free,